What's going on, FIA family? My name is Javier Barraza, and this is Raising the Bar podcast.
Well, my name is Airieanna. I'm a senior at Oakland High, and whew, my education
Like, where do
journey.
I start?
My freshman year was not the best, actually. I think my first report card was good. It was like A's and B's because that's what I was used to. But then, you start dipping into different lifestyles
Mm,
that, you're not very used to. And so I started in like D's and F's and stuff like that. And it was like, oh, marking period grades though, so not really matter.
mm-hmm.
And most high school teachers don't do like we're adding up all the grades and then this is the one you end up with. Um, so that's how it started off, and then I started getting a little better because I learned how to balance certain things. Fun with academics,
Mm-hmm.
and then it kind of started to get a little rougher when I started balancing extracurriculars, fun, and academics. But now we come to my senior year, and I have a good mix of all three. But yeah, that's pretty much my educational journey, just learning how to balance things, learning how to deal with things, and still being like academically strong in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, but also putting myself first. That's my whole academic journey. I'll call it that, putting myself first.
Right. And what was that rough start that you saw? Like, or that, what was the reason for it? Was it like adjusting to a high school education, or was it like just maybe other outside factors that you don't want to share? Just totally
Well,
fine.
no, it's fine. The factors I would say that kind of attributed to definitely was my home life. A lot of things were switching up and happening.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was also because my grandmother.
Okay.
I have a scholarship that I'm starting with my program, the Lady Irene Scholarship. She passed in December 2023, but I took care of her almost my whole life. But when she got really sick during COVID, I took care of her all of high school. We would go to shopping together.
Mm-hmm.
We go to a grocery store. Do you know off High Street? What is it called? I forgot what the grocery store is called. How could I forget that? We used to go there every single day.
Is it like a Mexican
But
grocery store?
kind of, sort of, yeah. Kind of,
'Cause I'm
sort of.
like, High Street's heavily, our Latino
Yeah.
community, right? So
Um, so we went to
Guadalajara, maybe one of those, right?
probably.
Got you.
We used to go to Mi Pueblo. Mi
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Pueblo's
mi
over
pueblo,
there.
yep.
Mi Pueblo. Oh, that was my store. I love
Mm-hmm.
the agua frescas there.
Yep.
So my grandma, we would go everywhere together. So when high school rolled around, it was like, okay, I got like 7, 8 classes,
Mm-hmm.
but I also need to take care of her. I need to make sure that like she's cool, and I gotta buy her groceries. I gotta do this. I gotta make sure her bills are paid.
Yeah.
And she had the money to pay them. It's just you forget. Oh, I gotta write this bill. I gotta write that bill. So she would forget. So I'd have to remind her.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a little notebook. I'd write her weight, her blood pressure. There was something else I used to write down in there. It was something else, but like the time I would do it. It was just a lot of factors to taking care of her. So that was the biggest factor into why it was kind of a rough patch. But also it's because I struggled with autonomy. I struggled with like having parents that kind of shuttered me in. But it wasn't in malicious intent. It wasn't like, oh yeah, we want to shut you away and keep you away from the world. It was like, we're scared. We're scared of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to keep it as safe as possible.
Right.
So that was that whole thing. But other than that, those are the real two big factors. I was trying to figure out who I was. Those are that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, like, did you playing such a big part in taking care of your grandma make you think about wanting to get into that field? Or studying that in college and going into maybe some kind of nursing?
It kind of did. It just a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
also when I kind of thought about it, I was like, I'd really be pouring a lot into others, but I really, in essence, wanted to like pour into myself more in my adult life.
Got you.
In my teenage years, I've poured a lot into others and I've done a lot for others. But I think once I hit that good 20s and 30s and oh Lord, 40s, um, I definitely want to pour into myself
Investing in
more.
yourself.
Yeah, definitely investing in myself, buy myself whatever I want, and
Mm-hmm.
just pouring into myself and just loving myself a little more.
Love it. Before we move on to like the next piece, right? Like what do you want to do after high school?
After high school, I want to go to UC Riverside, and I want to study psychology. So study people's brains, picking things apart, all those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things. Um, just all those different kind of things, but also want to minor in philosophy because I want to stick to my philosophical roots.
Okay.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I want to do. I want to study abnormal psychology, so I want to go into research and just figuring out why people are the way they are and how can we fix that.
Nice. Tell me a little bit about the work we did this year together. So of course, we started working together in beginning of this, actually last year, right? Like the
Hmm.
fall of last year or spring of last year,
Yeah.
and we started doing a lot of work around A through G. Why don't you just take
Yeah.
us through that?
So we did a lot of work on A through G, like you said. I not went to, but I led different workshops in classrooms and it's teaching about A through G and how important it is. One thing I just want to say about that experience is it was really nice teaching my peers about it
Mm-hmm.
instead of hearing it from like an adult, like somebody nagging you again about, oh my God, you need to get your grades up. You have a 1.8, you need to get it up to at
Mm-hmm.
least a 2.0 so you can go to CSU, blah, blah, blah. All those type of things are like hammered into your head. But when your peer is telling you about that, it feels more intentional. It feels more like, okay, I can do that because this person who's like, what, a year older than me is doing that. I can do that. But yeah, that experience is really nice. And I think like we've went on to doing like media stuff, public speeches with media. I was on the news. That was so
Mm-hmm.
cool. And then doing panels about A through G, talking about the importance of it. And so many other factors with A through G. But that's some of the work we've done together. It's been really fun. It's my senior year, so it might be coming to a close. But it's been really fun. And I love the fact that I just jumped into this work without knowing a lot
Right.
about it. I think, yeah, it's been a fun experience.
I think that's what I always recommend to students is like take opportunities that come. Um, there's things that may come to your table and you don't think it's interesting in the moment, but give it a shot because that's how you really find out what you like and what you don't like. So I've had one of our students who was in the same position as you, and she started doing this work and she liked it to the point where she wanted to actually get a job with us, and she did. You know what I mean? And she's balancing both school and doing this like organizing work. So you got to take the opportunities when they come, right? So when you're in
Yes.
college, we're taking them opportunities.
Absolutely.
How else are students stepping up? Of course, we did a lot of work around A through G, but how else are students stepping up that you're seeing, even if it's you or other students that you're seeing in the school?
I see students stepping up by just telling their peers by A through G, really just word of mouth. It's like, telling your friend, oh, you need to pass this class because you can't
Hmm.
go here if you don't do this. Can't go to a UC if you don't pass this class, yada, yada, yada. All some type of things. I think motivation is a big part of A through G because if you don't feel motivated, you're not going to do it.
Right.
So I think that's like one of the biggest things I can say. And I'm trying to think of some more. I'm thinking doing these workshops too. Doing these workshops really helps the students that are learning about this get involved in the work because then that's also word of mouth.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, how did you lead this workshop? How did you do this work? And they'll be like, oh, FIA, families in action. Da, da. I met Javier and we did X,
Mm.
Y, and Z. So it's really just word of mouth. And it's also just
Right.
teenagers being teenagers telling their friends, like, oh, if you don't pass class, you can't do this, and
Hmm.
da da. So I think that students stepping up by motivating their friends to do better, motivating family to do better, and honestly just educating each other.
Yeah. One of the things I really loved about the workshops is, and I saw this at every school, and it was not every student, but like a lot of students would come up to us after it and just ask us questions. And they'd be like, "Oh, can you tell me about this class?" Right? And there were some questions that I was able to answer in that moment, but then there were some questions that I'm like, "Damn, I actually don't know." Like, let's go talk to your counselor, or go to the Future Center. For my folks who are gonna hear this podcast, right? The Future Center is honestly a great resource that you guys have here, and that a lot of our OUZ schools have. High schools specifically, I'm not sure about like our middle schools and elementary schools, right? But I feel like it's just like a safe space that gets offered where students can come get some support. But you're gonna know more about the Future Center than me. Can you tell me just a little bit about the importance of that Future Center and how it helped you throughout your years in high school?
So the Future Center has been super helpful because they can help you all the way from freshman year all the way to senior year. So first of all, you build those mentorship connections where like Miss Michelle, shout out,
Shout out,
in
Miss Michelle.
the in the Future Center, she's part DCAC. I have no idea what that stands for,
Hmm.
but it's a great program for
Yep.
students that want to get into college and just kind of understanding the process of getting into college. It's really cool because me and her, we met And she was like, "Oh, so what's your plan? Da, da, and what do you want to do?" I think that was my sophomore year. It was my sophomore year. So we started talking more, just talking more into it. She holds me to the expectations of like, yeah, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. It's never like a sense of doubt with her.
Hmm.
And also, she knows a lot about the process. So she leads you through the process, and it's all Future Center staff that do that. They lead you through the process. They make sure you know what you're doing, and they also, with PIQs, if anybody's applying to like UCs, or even the EOP questions for CSUs, they lead you through like, okay, maybe this is good about your PIQs, but we could change this and make it less storytelling. And there's like three parts to a PIQ. So the first part is just telling your story, and then it's like, how did this affect you? And then it's like, how did you fix it? What was your solution? How did this make you better?
Hmm.
So it's just those three parts, and they really lead you through those parts.
Right.
So that was my biggest thing. I love writing. So it's always a little melodrama with me. But I think that's the biggest thing is they know so much about the process. It leads you through it. And then there's a person in the Future Center that'll give you scholarships. That'll help you get scholarships. They actually have a whole spreadsheet of scholarships. So they know so much about college, and they can help you pay for college. They can help you just get to college. And it's so much motivation in there. I know some students come in like, I don't know why I'm here. I'm not
Mm.
even going, da da. But then they come out and they're like, I'm going to college. Like, I'm
Right.
excited. It's an easier process than I thought, yada, yada. But yeah, I think that's really why it's important.
For sure. No, shout out to the Future Center. Shout out to Nichelle, and everybody else in there, because I think they're doing the work that sometimes gets missed in the classrooms, right? Like it's a lot of information that students normally don't get, right? And sometimes teachers just don't know the correct information, especially around like A through G, right? There's a lot of teachers that would even say like, oh, actually, don't even know what this is because they may be out of state teachers, for example. Um, and I know that's one of the challenges that we kind of covered in the work that we did around A through G. What are some of the other challenges that we may have not covered, but that you just want to shout out?
100%. I think a big challenge is not motivating our students. Some students struggle in the beginning like I did.
Mm-hmm.
When I was struggling in the beginning, there was no one in my ear really telling me like, "Oh yeah, you can go to college. Like we're gonna help you get to college." No, it's this thing of like, there's good students, there's bad students. The bad students aren't gonna go to college, quote unquote. They aren't gonna go to college. They aren't gonna do any good. You might just leave them where they at and just get them to at least graduate. So there's that kind of mentality where higher learning is not a focus also in our quote unquote discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a focus for the bad students. For the focus of the bad students, just get them to the day. But we're not motivating them. You're just kind of disciplining them, like, oh, I'm gonna call your mom, I'm gonna call your dad, da da. But there's no one actually helping them be better. It's
Mm.
no one actually helping them do better. So we have the wellness center here, we have future center people, but there's not enough people to cover, like, say if there's like 100 bad students, 200 bad students, what about 300? We don't have 300 people here who are willing to take on a student, help mentor them, and give them life advice. Because the future center, and well, I'm gonna just talk about the wellness center. The wellness center is an amazing place, but you have, I'm just kind of guesstimating, like 20 people
Mm-hmm.
in the wellness center, some of them not even being like therapists and things like that. There's like life coaches, there's counselors, there's a good variety there. And some people specialize in certain things. I know we used to have, or still have, a gender violence coordinator. So they all are kind of doing different things. And all these people can help. You can go to them and talk to them. But it gets to a point where it's like there's 1,000 students and 20 people. How much do you expect them to take on their caseload?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. They want to help everybody, but you can't because you don't have enough people.
So what would your, like, if you had a magic wand, right, that you could get whatever you want, what would be your wish to like change the challenge that you're seeing?
So I would definitely wave my wand and just expand the wellness center, and we have to expand the campus, all kind of things like that. But expand the wellness center, bring at least like 200 counselors, therapists, life coaches, all those kind of things. Because when you don't have enough people, you can't take care of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because the bad kids, it's like, okay, they're bad, and what? 5 of them get help because it's 5, 10 different people that's willing to take people on.
Hmm.
But when you don't have that help, the bad students then go to the school to prison pipeline.
Right.
And that's a whole different conversation. But then there's also a pipeline of the secondary school pipeline, or the, what is it called? Oh my gosh, having a brain fart. Um, Continuation school pipeline.
Okay.
I talk about that a lot because it's so important. There is a pipeline of continuation school, which also, for some people, does lead to the prison pipeline.
And then I will add on to that, like most continuation schools, they're I would say, like, from what I see, like, their main goal is just to get students out of
Hmm.
this system, right?
Exactly.
It's like they're when they graduate, they're not graduating with any of those A through G requirements completed. It's more so
Hmm.
like, let's get the student out
Exactly.
out the way, right? And that's the without sugarcoating how it looks like, in my opinion. Um, Without this magic wand, what would be your recommendation, right? Because we do have a board, an OUSD board, that are decision makers that are able to make policy that could help, or maybe even negatively impact this even more. What would be your recommendation to them?
I would say mental health resources need to be in every single high school and every single middle school. And you can even extend it to elementary school. We need mental health services, and we need counselors, and not even just administration. We need like counselors that care.
Mm,
I think that some people that get into education are getting into it for the paycheck. I'm so sorry to say. I've had many conversations with people who it doesn't feel like they're here for the kids. They're here for their 9 to 5.
mm,
But
that's
that's
true.
not how it goes. You're supposed to be here because you're a teacher. Being a teacher is so many different things, which is why I care for teachers so much. Because when you're a teacher or a counselor, somebody that works in education, you're doing more than what your job description is. You're supposed to teach kids and
Hmm.
you're supposed to make sure they learn. But also, you're supporting kids. If you have a kid who doesn't think they're going to graduate, you are their therapist, you are their mentor, you are everything under the sun that you can count on your fingers. You are everything to these kids because they see you every single day for 8 hours a day.
Hmm.
Whether it be like, you're the first period teacher or you're the second period teacher, you are who they see for like an hour and a half every day. Every single day you come in and you see them. That's who you're supposed to be to them. But a lot of teachers, they don't see that. They don't see that correlation. And it's sad because I know when I was growing up in like elementary and middle school, it was a little different. But coming to high school, it's just, I see the difference and I see the change. And there's many amazing educators out there. Um, Miss Marika, I'd like to shout out Miss Marika. She lives in LA now. I loved her so much. She's my English teacher, my sophomore year. And she was my everything. She was like my supporter, my biggest supporter at that. She was my therapist, my mentor, my counselor. She was everything you could think of. My academic advisor, my college advisor. She was everything to me. My librarian, like she was everything to me. And that's how I feel like teachers should be, even if you don't have to be everything. But support kids
Hmm.
and allow them to not just graduate high school, but also they need to go to college. They need to do something other than being out there in them streets.
Right.
But if I really could ask the board to do anything, it's mental health services need to be in every single school, not just because the school has money, but you need to find some money to bring mental health services to McClymonds, to Fremont, to all these different schools that may not have the biggest budget. You need to make sure these schools have mental health
Hmm.
services, and I feel like that'll change a lot.
And I want to wrap up with a little bit of a call to action, right? 'Cause I feel like we talked about a good amount of things. Um, what is the message? Just kind of going back to like the student piece, right? Like, what is the message that you want to share to students? You're about to be out the door. You're about to be at UC Irvine, right, next fall. What is the message that you want to share to students who are incoming freshmen, who maybe don't know about A through G, right, and maybe are a little bit afraid of coming into this into this, larger school system, right, which is high school,
Mhm.
regardless if it's district or charter. It's just a new experience for students, right? You're stepping into a new environment. So, what is the message for them, for freshmen? What is maybe a message for like sophomores and juniors who are maybe a little bit behind on some of their A through G courses? What would you like to share with them?
I would say that For freshmen coming in, I do want to give the tip that colleges do not look at your freshman year. They will kind of glance over it, but it won't be a thing that they like hard consider. Because I know some people think like, oh, since I messed up during my freshman year, I can't go to college. Da, da, da. It's not really like that. They are accumulating all 4 years of high school, and mostly looking through sophomore all the way up to like spring, not spring, fall of senior year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what they're looking at, examining, and kind of picking apart a little bit. But also, since I'm going to UC Riverside, and I think most UCs and CSUs are very diversified in how they look at your application. It's not just, was she a straight A student? They don't really care about attendance, I'm not gonna lie. They don't really look at your attendance. So if you skip school every single day, but you have like A's and B's in your classes, then you're pretty much good. But I would not say
We should have skipped school though.
we should not skip school. But I am gonna say, take that time for yourself. If you need to go to your counselor and go talk to them about something that's going on in your life, I promise you that English class is always going to be there. I promise it is not going to walk and leave the school. The room is not going to grow legs and leave Oakland High or whatever school you're at. I am going to say, take time for yourself. Don't work yourself to the bone, because I've done that and it never works. Because you'll just get burnt out. You're just going to be like, oh, I hate school. And that's where you're going to start skipping school every day.
Mm.
So,
And I think what I want to pick from that is like, it's okay if you struggle your freshman year, right? Like if you maybe are struggling both academically or even mentally, like take the time for yourself. Go to the wellness center, right? Go talk to somebody who can support you. And then also, your freshman year doesn't define what the rest of your high school experience could be like, right?
exactly.
So what you said, like, colleges look at your freshman year, but they're also more lenient when it comes to freshman year, right? And this can come out like in all the writing, the essays that you do. You can definitely share like what were some of those challenges. But the important thing is you just realizing that you do have to get a C or higher in those core
100%.
A through G classes, right? But I definitely agree with you. It's like, don't let that freshman year define you.
Yeah, 100%. It's like if you fail anything, if you get like a D, because a D is not A through G eligible, if you get like a bad grade, I don't want you to go home and stress about it for hours and sit there rocking back and forth on your bed. Really don't stress about it, because there's nothing you can do about it now. The grades are in. Like, I'm sorry to tell you, but it's solidified. You did fail that English class. And everybody does it. I mean, I'll be honest, I failed geometry my freshman year because I was taking on too much. I had like 9 classes pretty much.
That's a lot.
So I took on a lot. And so then I failed geometry. I got like a D plus in geometry, because also we're not going to get into the teacher. But I failed geometry and I just retook it my junior year after my schedule wasn't overflowing. I just retook it and I passed, and I'm going to a UC or CSU. So there is hope for you.
Right.
If there is hope for you if you fail.
And is that the message to like juniors and to sophomores and juniors?
Yeah.
Retake the classes that you may have failed, right? And what else? What else would you say to juniors and sophomores? Sorry.
I would definitely say, like, you're not doing as bad as you think you are. There's always going to be something in your head telling you, oh my God, she got into Harvard, she got into Yale, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, you're not doing anything wrong, because those avenues are probably not meant for you. If you're a person of color, I'm not going to discourage you from going to an Ivy League, but I am going to say it is a very heavy, predominantly white institution, PWI. It's very heavily that. And most UCs and CSUs are also PWI. So, but Ivy Leagues, that's really where you're going to find the PWIs at. But I'm going to say most of the time those avenues, first of all, when they're created, weren't made for you. And also, maybe that's just not in your cards. Maybe Ivy League is not in your cards. And if it is in your cards, great. But if it's not, wherever you go, you're going to make the most out of it and you're going to have fun. Mostly, not all colleges are the same, but you're going to get the same thing out of it: a degree, a party. If you want to join a sorority, you're going to get a pledge. And you're most likely going to get sick your first semester of your freshman year, because we all know how, like, your dorms, everybody's packed into a dorm.
Packed in one thing.
Exactly. You're going to get the same thing out of every single college, I promise you. And whether somebody's going to Harvard and you're going to Merritt College or you're going to CSU Long Beach, it's the same thing. You
Hmm.
all are getting a BA, and it's not going to be, oh my God, Harvard has this kind of thing, and CSU Long Beach this kind. You're getting the same thing. You're getting a degree, and then you're most likely either going to go to grad school or you're going to go get a job.
Hmm.
It's the same thing.
What's really important is like the internship opportunities that you take during that time,
Exactly.
right? Last thing, Ariana, is when we had to get on the bus tour, we had four elected officials in the
Mhm.
room. We had three OUC school board members. We had one of our Alameda County elected officials or trustees, um, and that was really an opportunity for you as students. You and your other peers that were there to ask them questions, but also hold them accountable to making sure that they're keeping students, at the heart of their decisions when they're, thinking about quality, transparency, and any other decisions to make. Right. My last question for you is: how do students like yourself keep these decision makers accountable to you guys?
So I worked in city council for about a year. I was on Oakland Youth Commission. Shout out Sarah Tires. I love her. She was amazing. I had a very rare opportunity to work alongside city council members and other folks who are not members of city council, and it was honestly amazing. But I hold people accountable by, first of all, just creating the kind of relationship where we can have a good rapport,
Mm.
where I can tell you, hey, you're messing up and they'll listen. I would say when you're dealing with somebody in power, um, you don't just want to like yell things at them because then they go like on pre-automated messages mode where it's like, okay, yes, I am city council member of District 8, blah, blah. You get pre-automated messages from them, but you want to be the kind of person who can demand attention when they come into a room. My last message would definitely be that you can do this. Students can do this. And you can do student advocacy. You can do literally whatever you want. We live in a super progressive place. I would say do what you want to do, make people listen to you, but also don't waste your time on people who aren't going to listen to you. You go find your community, you go find who's going to talk to you and make your ideas come true.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate
Of
it.
course.